And my other classes I have Tuesday, so I have to which she's over. She's over.
Yeah, it's like every single day. I learned self.
Everything starts at 0. Everyone's great. Oh, that's fine. Everyone starts at 0.
I see what you're saying. Thank you guys so much for your help. We appreciate it.
Getting a picture.
Yeah, she was like,
Also, that was such exciting. You're like the man who does the introduction, the man who
So how close are you?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. All right, I am so excited to hear today's speakers talk. Today we're hearing from Melanie Tree, Nicole Pett, Paige Freston, Miriam Allen, and Hunter Schmidt, but I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. Didn't that just get you so excited? Our first speaker is Melanie Tree. Melanie is on the pre-law track, majoring in public relations and has earned a certificate in family and child advocacy. She is passionate about spreading awareness about human trafficking and works with the National Child Protection and Recovery Agency. Please give it up for Melanie Tree.
Oh, wait, prayer.
Before Melanie comes up, we're going to have a prayer.
Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this day. We're grateful for all the many opportunities that we've been given throughout life as well as throughout today. Heavenly Father, please bless those who are speaking today, that they may feel like calm and know that there are people around them and in this room who are cheering them on. Heavenly Father, those who are struggling mentally, physically, and spiritually, please let them know that there are loved ones around them that care for them and support them, and that there are many resources that can help them through their hard times. And I say these things in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Imagine this. You are about to go underneath an open heart surgery, and then you hear your surgeon mutter underneath their breath, I should have paid attention in school. That's horrifying, right? But that is exactly what we are doing to our law enforcement in all 50 states of America. They are not having the proper training, the proper resources, and they are underfunded. So I have an agency today that is going to help law enforcement all across America. Meet NCPRA, the National Child Protection and Recovery Agency. Now, NCPRA is inspired by NCMEC's Team Adam. NCMEC stands for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And as you can see the picture of that child right there, that is the beginning of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It started with the Walsh family experiencing a tragic loss of their son, Adam Walsh, who was brutally murdered and abducted. And the Walsh family found out that the law enforcement, they did not have the proper resources or training to help find their son fast enough. And that is why it is imperative that we take the resources now to help find all children across the United States of America. So Team Adam is a bridge off of NCMEC, and it is started by NCMEC, and is filled with 158 consultants as of last year. And since 2003, they have been deployed 1,289 times for missing children to help find them. And that is exactly what my agency is going to do. Picture this, tons of Team Adams across America in each individual state going to help law enforcement. They're not going to take over the cases and give us bad PR. They're going to help law enforcement, enhance them, give them the tools that they need. Now, since 2024, 460,000 children went missing. Now, the FBI and the Homeland Security, they were overly gracious by stating that 97% of those kids were found. But what about the other 3%? I did the math for you guys, and that is 13,800 children unfound. But also the FBI and Homeland Security also stated there's probably about another 400,000 children that they do not know about that are not reported. And that could be because the families are afraid because they're getting threats from the abductors and they're told not to go to law enforcement. Could be because of immigration issues, because if they report their child missing, they could be sent back to the country and then they will never know or advocate for the child that is missing currently. And it could be because they currently just do not care. The family does not care where your child is currently. So they will not report their child. And it could be another million reasons why those children are not being reported. So I did the math, and that would be 413,800 children that are currently missing as of 2024. But let's do the math. If there's probably about another 400,000 children that are not reported, and of course another 13,000, probably about the same exact math as of 2024, and then we add that to 2025 and the same exact math, that would be 800,000 children currently missing within America. And that is tragic because we are America. We're supposed to be great. We're supposed to be leading in all things. But how can we do that if we are neglecting our children? So the National Protection and Recovery Agency is going to have a dedicated search team to help law enforcement. It's going to be filled with former investigators that have experience in helping children. It's going to be filled by forensic psychologists, tech analysts, trauma-informed specialists, attorneys that can help parents advocate for their child and prosecute those perpetrators. And it's going to be filled with knowledge that's built off of other nonprofits and what law enforcement has built upon in our own research. And I had a great time recently learning from law enforcement and survivors. You guys may be familiar with Sherry Lopez. I introduced her in my former speech, and she's a human trafficking survivor, and I'm currently interning from her. And I have met with analysts and members that were previously law enforcement, and also members that were part of the BAU, the Behavioral Analysis Unit in the FBI. And they have given me great advice so we can pinpoint exactly where to target in law enforcement. There is a huge reporting missing issue, as I have previously stated, from families, but also from law enforcement. Law enforcement underneath President Joe Biden's presidency mandated child in the NCIC database, and that is the database where all law enforcement, FBI, Homeland Security across the United States can look at missing children, notice trends, and if there's a dead body, they can help identify that child because it's already been federally reported as a missing child, or if they find a child wandering down the streets, they can look at NCIC and try to find that child. But guess what? In Ohio, they failed to report 89% of children in the NCIC database, even though it was federally mandated. Now, it could be because of true neglect. It could be that they did not care. It could be that they're also not trained enough, or they're overwhelmed because the vast majority of law enforcement departments only have about 15 officers. So they are overrun by several different cases. And even if they did put them and log them into the NCIC database, some of them failed to report the child's photo. Do you know how hard it is to look for a child if you do not know what they look like? It is nearly impossible to find that child. Also, police training. Each state requires a different amount of training, and each department, they have their own set of standards. So it's never truly the same. In Ohio, they only require officers to learn in 2 hours about how to address a missing child's case. And that also includes the complex issue of human trafficking. In Arkansas, they're a little bit better, but they only require 16 hours of training. And that also changes depending on each department and their own standards in their own county. Imagine this, you have a child that is missing and you go to law enforcement expecting help, but you meet that law enforcement officer and they only have 2 hours of training on how to find a missing child. That can feel incredibly hopeless for the parents. And that is what my agency is going to help with. They are going to go to every department and help them out, find these missing children across the United States of America. They're going to give them the proper tools, the resources, so they can fix this dilemma. And by the time I am done with this speech, 10 kids have already gone missing, because every 68 seconds across the world, a child goes missing. And by the time you walk out of those doors, 60 kids have already gone missing. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie, so much for that powerful presentation. Our next speaker is Nicole Pett from Kaysville, Utah. Fun fact about Nicole is she can give you just a little bit too much information about totem poles. But today, she'll be talking to us about the power of choices.
Testing? Okay. Everyone, close your eyes. Think about a time where you felt angry, where you felt depressed, where you felt sad, where you felt despair, or even anxiety. You can open up your eyes. I've also felt this as well. Depression, being angry, being sad. But throughout the years, I have learned something very important, and that is that we can choose the good in every situation. So this is a picture of my grandparents. I lived with them for a year before my mission, and they taught me very important lessons in my life. And at this time before my mission, I felt despair. I felt angry, I felt sad, I felt like nothing good was gonna happen in my life at this moment. And I had a job that I really hated. And every day I would complain to my grandparents. I'd say, oh, I have to go to work today. I hate this, why do I have to go? And my grandpa, he would always remind me that there was good in every situation. And he would say, no, you get to go to work. This is an opportunity that you have, and a lot of people would love to be in your position. And so today I wanted to talk about 3 things that I learned from him. And that is changing our language, reframing our situation, and choosing the good, or seeing that we can go through hard times. So my first one here is that we can choose to change our language. When we choose to change our language, we can see positivity more in our lives. But if we don't, we actually see a lot more negativity. So if we have negative self-talk, we get more stress. We're actually sad more. We have more depression, and it leads to a lot more mental health issues like anxiety and depression. And so how do we change this? Well, from my peers, I hear a lot of this. I have to go to class. I have to go take a test. I have to go to work. I have to do my homework. I have to. But something that I learned from my grandpa is that instead of saying I have, why don't we change it to I get? I get to go to work. I get to go take this test. I get to go to class. I get to do my homework. Because saying I have to feels more like a burden, but I get to feels more like an opportunity. Which brings me to my next point, that we can reframe our situation. So I have a picture of a glass here, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourselves. Do you think this glass is half full or half empty? It's crazy that we can look at the same image of a glass of water and get something completely different from someone else. Someone could look at this and say, yeah, I think it's half empty. I feel stuck in this situation. I feel like there's not enough water. But somebody else could look at it and say, look at what I have. Look how grateful I am to even have just this much water. So I wanted to share a story about this man here. This is Aaron Ralston. If you haven't heard his story, it might be a little familiar, but back in 2003, he was canyoneering, and he actually fell between a canyon and got stuck in the canyon, and a boulder fell on his arm. And he was stuck there for about 6 days, hoping that someone would come and rescue him, but no one did. And on the 6th day, he thought, I'm gonna die. This is it for me. This is my life. This is what's gonna happen to me. Like, I'm done for. But instead, he reframed his situation and thought, there's something I can do about this. And so he decided that he actually cut off his arm that was stuck under the boulder and climbed out of it. And so this is him today. Now let's bring it back to us, though, as college students, because that's a pretty extreme situation. I think whenever I'm in a hard situation like that, I always think this question: why is this happening to me? Why do I have to go to class every single day to get an education? Why do I have to pay rent for a place that I don't even like to live? Why? But instead of maybe asking why don't we ask something different? What's one good thing that comes from this situation? Well, I get to be here in Rexburg, Idaho, where I get to have an education so then I can help other people when I get a job. I can go to work so then I can pay for a place that I can live in. I get to come to school every day and see my friends. So when we reframe our situation, we can see the good instead of the negative. Which brings me to my last point, is that we can choose to go through hard times, and we can choose growth in it. But I'll be honest with you guys, we're all gonna go through hard times. Hard times are just inevitable. It's a part of God's plan, and we're supposed to go through hard times. But we can have a choice to see the good in it. So I wanted to share a story from my mission, though. It was the last 2 transfers that I had, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna end it with a bang. I'm ready for this. I'm ready to go do the best that I can. Felt like I was a very good missionary. And I got to this area and I really struggled. I had 2 very hard companions. The area that I was in, we didn't have very much success. And I was in and out of the hospital from being sick. And I was super depressed. I was very sad because I wanted it and with something good. But I remembered the things that my grandpa taught me, and I remembered the things that I studied. And I was able to see the good in it. And even though my situation didn't change, I was able to find happipiness through it. And actually, a quote from President Nelson, this was back in October 2010, so 10 years ago. President Nelson gave a talk about joy and spiritual survival. And this quote really stuck out to me. And it says, when the focus of our lives is on Jesus Christ, we can feel joy regardless of our situation. And it's a great reminder for me that no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing, I can have joy in my life. So I want you to go back and think about that situation from earlier where you felt depressed. where you felt angry, where you felt sad, despair, where you probably felt stuck. What would you change now if you could go back? Would you choose the same, or would you try to look at the good? And something my grandpa always likes to tell me, we get to choose what our outcome will be.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Let's give it up one more time for Nicole. Our next speaker is Paige Freston from Roosevelt, Utah, also known as Skinwalker, or the home of Skinwalker Ranch, which sounds super fun. Paige is studying public relations, and she currently teaches seminary in Rigby, and she will be telling us more about dating intentionally. Please welcome Paige Freston.
Okay, guys, I'm going to put a picture on the screen, and I want you to shout out who it is. Oh, first one, who is it? Anna and Hans. This is Anna and Hans after they've known each other for probably an hour tops, and this is like 6 or 7 seconds before they get engaged to be married. Okay, who is this? Giselle. And Prince Edward, right? We're going to watch what happens in their story.
Oh my gosh, it's you.
Yes, it's me. And you are?
Giselle.
Oh, Giselle! We shall be married in the morning. You're the fairest maid I've ever met. You were made
To finish your duet.
and in years to come we'll reminisce how we came to love
And grew love.
Okay, you might be wondering, how does this relate to us? Well, here at BYU Idaho, we have a pretty unique dating culture. Everyone is either madly in love and not afraid to show it, or chronically single. There's really no in between. If you're married, maybe you can take a nap for this next 8 minutes, but actually no, this still applies to you. You've heard of a ring by spring. That's a stereotype that we have here at BYU Idaho. It's the concept that, you meet someone and in the span of 1, 2, maybe 3 months, you already have a ring, right? From winter to fall semester, you're ready to be married. Now, that might be a little fast, but today we're going to talk about how to be intentional with dating, regardless of the timeline. So to start, here's some statistics about young adults dating. The Institute for Family Studies says that only about 1 in 3 young adults report that they are actively dating. That's 31% of young adults. They report they are active daters, which means they date once a month or more. 3/4 of women and nearly 2/3 of men in our survey reported that they had not dated or dated only a few times the last year. And 51% of these young adults expressed interest in even starting a relationship. So these people that were going on dates weren't really interested in starting a relationship, which is so interesting. And this passion for this topic started with me, that's me, having a conversation with my guy friends. They consider me their wing woman sometimes, and I was talking to them about their dating lives, and they were just really bummed that they're single. They feel like, they're old enough, they've been home from their mission for like 2 to 3 years, like, why am I still single? And I asked them, when was the last time you asked a girl on a date? And they could not tell me the last time they went on a date with someone. And so if we are being intentional about dating, we have this goal to get married, why wouldn't we put in the action? Obviously, going on a date is the next step if you guys want to work towards a goal to get married. So, for example, dating frequency. You can see the highest 2 statistics are people who only go on dates a few times a year or never go on dates, which is a problem. So let's talk about what it means to be intentional. To be intentional means to do something on purpose, to be deliberate. In the context of dating with intention means proactively seeking a partnership aligned with your values, goals, and emotional needs, rather than casually seeing where things go. In the example of Anna and Hans and Giselle and Prince Edward, they were focused on the physical attraction, which is so important, but also having that compatibility, aligning your values, goals, and emotional needs is so important. So this is another study done for BYUI students. This is 100 people, so it shows that when asked, generally speaking, how long should you know someone before getting engaged? 17 people, or 17%, say that time doesn't matter. To me, this is showing a lack of intention. The next one, how long should you date before discussing marriage? 25 people, or 25%, say that time doesn't matter. Again, huge lack of intention. So, how do we have this intention while dating? How do we make sure that we're being mindful of that connection without just focusing on the physical aspect? Well, there's something called the Relationship Attachment Model, or the RAM, that teaches us how to do this. It has 5 dials: know, trust, rely, commit, and touch. And as you see, this is the perfect situation, the ideal RAM model. Know, trust, rely, commit, and touch. It's done in that order. Once you know someone a little bit more, you can trust them. Once you know them more and trust them more, you can rely on them. Once those other 3 go up, then you commit, and then it goes to touch. These examples that we showed, Anna and Hans, it didn't work out. We know that she ended up with Christoph, and their RAM model looked something like this. They didn't know each other. They obviously trusted each other a little bit if they were willing to get married. They couldn't rely on each other. They committed to each other, and then touch. Broken RAM model. Okay, and then we have Giselle and Prince Edward. This is what their RAM model looks like. They didn't know each other at all. Maybe she trusted him a little bit because he caught her after she fell out of a tree, and that built that reliance, but the commitment was obviously higher than anything else. And we know that that also didn't work out, and she ended up with, Robert. My favorite thing is Prince Edward in the back. He's happy for them, right? They found the perfect RAM model. Okay, let's look at a real life example. These are my parents. These are my parents right here. These are my parents. And this is them before they were dating. They were friends, and that part of the RAM model didn't start when they started dating. It started when they started to get to know each other. They learned to trust and rely on each other. And then they started dating. And this is when my mom shares that she was afraid to kiss him because she thought he was a player. But they followed the RAM model, maybe not perfectly, right? Because nobody's perfect, but they followed it to the best of their abilities, even though they didn't know that it was a thing back in the day. And they are the biggest example to me of what a healthy relationship looks like. This is what their RAM model looks like, right? That ideal situation that we talked about. Now, I'm not saying that just because it happens fast that it's not the ideal situation. This is my cousin Carson and his wife Sarah, and they dated, were engaged, and married within the span of 6 or 7 months, and they also followed the RAM model. And again, they're huge examples to me of what a healthy relationship is. They followed the RAM model, and they have a beautiful, beautiful family, and I love them so much. Okay, and this situation has applied to me. Some people might say, Paige, you don't have that much experience in the dating world, but I say that you don't need to have bad experiences, right? Nobody wants bad experiences, and honestly, people that have bad experiences have less credibility than those that have avoided them. Before my mission, I was going on dates with this guy, and he wanted to jump to the commit and touch before we really knew, trusted, or relied on each other. And he almost made it so that I didn't serve a mission. And it was something that saved my bacon. I didn't know the RAM model was a thing, but I was raised with these morals and standards created by my parents that I'm so grateful for. And I was able to get out of that situation. He's a great guy, but it just wasn't the best situation. And I needed to go on my mission. I needed to have that healthy relationship. and have those standards aligned. Like we talked about with that intentional dating, we need to have our standards and morals aligned with the person that we are dating. Otherwise, we will find ourselves in a bad situation if we are just focused on the physical attraction. That's why it's so important to be intentional, be safe, and I know that this will help us to fix the dating culture here at BYU Idaho. The ring by spring isn't the worst situation, but as long as we are being intentional with our dating and we are actually going on dates, we can fix the dating culture here at BYU Idaho. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paige. Our next speaker is Miriam Allen from Knoxville, Tennessee. She is studying public relations and organizational leadership. She enjoys baking sourdough, playing the violin, and playing tennis. She will be talking to us about the art of winning hearts. Please welcome Miriam Allen.
Today, I want to take you back to my childhood. I spent some time in a town smaller than Rexburg, if you can believe it. It's a fraction of the size. We had one stoplight, one grocery store, a beautiful view of the Rocky Mountains, and a giant lake. We had a big old yard with lots of grass and a big old trampoline in the backyard. Now, one of my favorite things to do during the summer was to go jump on the trampoline with my cute little sister. Right? She was about 2 at this time. I was about 4. And this particular summer day was really hot outside. So we went and we started jumping on the trampoline and we cooked up this brilliant plan. Let's have Mom turn on the sprinkler underneath the trampoline. So we go in, rope our mom into it. She puts the sprinkler underneath the trampoline. And then she turns to me and, as any wise mother should, says, "Miriam, you're twice the size of your sister, twice the age. I don't want you jumping on the trampoline at the same time with the sprinkler." I set a timer, she set a timer, and she said, "Wait your turn. When the timer goes off, you can get on the trampoline." All right, fine. My 4-year-old little brain, I was like, all right, I'll be obedient. Mom says, listen. So I listened. It was the longest 5 minutes of my life up until that point. But we made it. Finally, the timer goes off, and I go to run over to my sister, Rachel. She's actually in the audience today. And I tell her, "Hey, Rachel, get off the trampoline. It's my turn to jump on the trampoline." She goes, keep jumping. I'm like, Rachel, it's my turn. The timer went off. And she keeps jumping. I'm like, oh. So I put in the mom card. Mom said, it's my turn to jump on the trampoline. Yeah, she keeps jumping. All right, 4-year-old logic. Well, Mom said I could get on the trampoline after the timer goes off. The timer went off. Therefore, it's my turn. She doesn't get off the trampoline. It's not my problem, right? You're all seeing where this is going much sooner than I did. So I get on the trampoline. And when you put the sprinkler underneath the trampoline, every jump, you go higher. So I start jumping, and my little sister goes flying. Poor thing, broke her leg. She's really cute in that pink cast, huh? Now there's a running joke in my family that I don't break my bones, but I break everybody else's. I would just like to point out that gravity did 90% of the work. I just provided the initial momentum. But regardless, I want you to remember this. As I continue speaking today, we will come back to this story. I spent this last semester as an intern in Washington, D.C., working with public relations, and I was able to attend this meeting where the ambassador of Costa Rica was also in attendance. She stood up and she made a comment that will forever impact the way that I view interpersonal communication. She started talking about diplomacy. Now, in my mind, when I think of diplomacy, I think of nations communicating, right? Negotiations, the Warsaw Pact, Theodore Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, right? I don't think of little people like me. However, the way that she described it made me realize that it's something that we all use. Jake and Sam use it every day, right? Andrew and Rachel use it every day. She said that the diplomacy is the art of winning hearts through the way that you tell your story. Diplomacy is the art of winning hearts. So after studying diplomacy a little bit, I realized that there are 3 main components of diplomacy. The first is intention, persuasion, and demonstration. Let's explore some of these today. Intention. In the book Crucial Conversations, we learn that in order to navigate conflict, it is necessary that you start with the heart. What are your intentions? Right? What do you want out of this conversation? What do you want for the other person? And more importantly, what do you want for your relationship with this person? A wonderful example of this throughout history is Abraham Lincoln. He was president during a very difficult era in American history. He was the president during the American Civil War, signed the Emancipation Proclamation, went through major economic and social changes. Everything that he did with the intention of preserving the Union, the United States of America. He eventually gave his life for this cause, right? But he was a diplomatic powerhouse because he had his intentions aligned. He knew what they were, he knew what his goal was, he knew what he wanted for the rest of America, and he worked at it. This kind of leads us into our next point, persuasion. Now, when I say persuasion, some of you kind of crinkle your noses. It's because you think of manipulation, right? Manipulation is Satan's counterfeit of persuasion. Manipulation is dishonest. It's an underhanded way to force compliance, and it doesn't have the other person's best interest at heart. On the other hand, persuasion is ethical, it's transparent, and has a respect for the other person's autonomy, their right to make informed decisions. When I think of manipulation, we know that Satan's the best manipulator. I also know that there's a ton of other examples. I'm sure, if I asked you, for example, someone would yell out their ex-girlfriend's name, and I don't really want to hear that right now, so we're not going to ask you. But in my mind, some of the best manipulators actually come from the Book of Mormon. The priests of King Noah. Oh, that's the worst. Next time you read that story, look for the way that they manipulate the story and the outcome of that particular section of the Book of Mormon. When I think of persuasion, I think of this scripture. Doctrine and Covenants 121:41. No power or influence ought to be maintained by virtue of the priesthood only by persuasion. Right? Long-suffering, gentleness, meekness, love, and faith. By persuasion. This ethical respect for someone else's autonomy, their right to make informed decisions. It's something that we're kind of commanded to do. Persuade. When I think of persuasion, I think of Ammon in the Book of Mormon. He was really good at persuading others. King Lamoni came to Ammon and put him in kind of an interesting position. He said, I will give you anything, even my kingdom, if you just answer some of my questions. And Ammon responded. Ammon is actually described in the Book of Mormon as being cunning, yet harmless. He was a master of persuasion, and he brought about a lot of good because of it. This kind of leads us into our next point. So we've talked about intention, we've talked about persuasion, and now we're going to talk about demonstration. Demonstration is the act of leading by example. We know that the best leaders are those who show you what they expect. A wonderful example of this is Martin Luther King Jr. He's a fantastic leader, and whenever he asked someone or persuaded them to join a cause, he was always at the head of that cause. He asked them to boycott a certain product, he was at the head of that boycott. He asked them to march on the Capitol, he was at the head of that march. He demonstrated what he expected and therefore was able to win the hearts of those who followed him. He once said, a genuine leader is not a searcher for consensus, but a molder of consensus. Diplomacy isn't about finding people who agree with you. It's about winning over the hearts of those who don't. Now, why does this apply to you? Why does this apply to me? Well, for one, I couldn't get my little sister off the trampoline. I wasn't very good at diplomacy. I was 4. But regardless, I didn't have had the right intentions. I wasn't very good at persuasion. I didn't demonstrate what I expected. Now, the next time that you are trying to convince your roommate that it's their turn to do the dishes, remember this. If you're going to try to win over their hearts, remember intention. Remember persuasion, remember demonstration. This week, pick one of these areas to work on because diplomacy is something that you use every day. And as you focus on these three things, intention, persuasion, demonstration, you will find that you really do have this amazing tool in your tool belt. You will find that there is great power in learning the art of winning hearts.
Thank you, Miriam. Before we get to our last speaker, I want everyone to stand up, give it a little stretch. Stretch out your arms, your body, your legs. And while you're standing, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our last speaker, Hunter Schmidt. Hunter is from Fort Collins, Colorado. She is a portrait photographer, as most people in our class would know. She's very good at it. And she will be speaking about attachment styles today. Please sit down and welcome our final speaker, Hunter Schmidt.
I've spent a lot of my life wondering what is wrong with me. Why do I have a hard time talking to my parents? Why am I so anxious in my relationship with my boyfriend? When I started to date, I really started to ask, what am I doing wrong? Until recently, I didn't know. Until I learned about attachment styles. It wasn't my fault. I wasn't broken. It's how my brain was programmed. The first time I learned about attachment styles, I didn't know there was an option to be secure. I didn't know there was an option to not be falling behind, not be failing. I learned about them by the common names a lot of you probably recognize: anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, and disorganized attachment. When I learned about these, I was scared. I didn't know what I was. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know really much of anything. But in my recent class, I learned about them by the proper names, and I learned what the balance of give and take that they have is, and I learned what my attachment style is. So today, I hope to teach you guys what your attachment style is and how you can cope with it, and how you know that you aren't stuck being an insecure attachment style. Yes, your response is going to be either withdrawn or overly anxious. But when you are able to understand it, you are able to cope with it, and you are able to reset your mindset. So first, I'm going to tell you about the balance of give and take in attachment styles. So first is anxious attachment or preoccupied attachment. I love how those are going together. Anyway, preoccupied attachment. So preoccupied is the proper name for it. Anxious attachment is the more common name, and also there's different names for when it's a child versus when it's adult. I'm more so talking when you are an adult and mostly in dating. In preoccupied attachment, you'll see these arrows. You are purple, other person's teal. They don't have an arrow. It doesn't matter how much energy they give you back. You are always giving and giving and giving, and you are giving so much energy, and when you get anxious, you give more. In dismissing attachment, you give very little. You want to protect yourself. You withdraw when you are at risk. In fearful attachment, you are inconsistent with your energy. You either give a lot when you panic, or you withdraw when you panic. It's unpredictable. You either over or undercompensate. It doesn't matter how the other person reacts. The option that I didn't know existed was secure attachment. You are able to balance your give and take. As you can see, the other person is you can see how the other person is reacting. You are able to meet in the middle. You are able to give more when your partner needs more. You are able to give less when your partner needs space. As you can see, there's some arrows where you're not meeting in the middle. There's some arrows where you're overlapping. Sometimes your partner may be like, I need to take a little bit of space, and you need to give them that space. Sometimes they may be like, I want to give you a lot, and in response, you're like, I want to give you a lot. I want to give you a lot of my energy. I want to give you a lot of my time. When you are in insecure attachment, you aren't broken, and you can seek healthy behavior. You are not stuck being unhealthy. Your immediate response isn't going to be secure, but if you are aware and you follow what I'm about to tell you, you are able to seek a healthy response to a secure relationship. So, some of you might not know like unhealthy behaviors that you may have. Some of you may not know how to deal with those unhealthy behaviors. I'm going to give 3 examples of behaviors that are unhealthy. Obviously, there's infinite amounts of behaviors to either react with there's infinite amounts of behaviors to react with your attachment styles. But these are 3 examples. So the first one is an unhealthy behavior, which is becoming overly emotional or anxious at a perceived attack or slight. So say your partner doesn't give you the attention you want, and you're like, oh, dang it. And instead of being able to kind of be like, oh, it's not anything against me, you panic. The way to deal with this is to talk it out. You need to talk about your emotions. And one struggle, and this is more of a preoccupied attachment, one struggle that preoccupied attachment has is that they depend on their partner for regulation. So the other step is to self-soothe. You need to take a second. You need to be able to take care of yourself and not depend on the other individual to take care of you. The next is more of a dismissing attachment style. You may completely withdraw when you experience conflict. The way that you deal with this is you tell your partner, I need a break. Can we take a second, take a step back, return to this in a second. You need to take that space for yourself, but you don't need to distance. You don't need to completely withdraw and become in on yourself and be like, I need to protect myself. This is unsafe. Because insecurity, once you know how to be secure, you are able to follow what you feel like you need to do, but you are also able to respond healthily. And then the last is also, okay, cool, there we go. Last is also more of a preoccupied attachment, but it can also be fearful. Fearful, you tend to have both preoccupied and dismissing attachment triggers, and you respond accordingly. So this is more preoccupied, but when a partner shows inconsistency, you may panic. You freak out. You don't know what to do. You may just pile more and more and more. Your partner may have been like, oh, I forgot our anniversary. And you're like, you forgot our anniversary? You don't care about me. But if you are able to tell your partner that you feel triggered and you tell them why, and you use I language, you say, I feel anxious, I feel abandoned when you forgot this. And then you are able to be like, I need to work on this. And your partner will respond with, I need to work on this. When you are able to open that healthy communication, you are able to receive security. You are able to feel secure. So the key is communicating. You are not going to respond immediately with healthy behaviors, but you are going to be able to communicate what your need is. That is how you reach security. And you may be wondering what the benefits of security are. And I have a handful right here. When you are secure, you are able to communicate effectively. You are able to express your needs. You are able to express your emotions. When you are secure, you're able to give emotional support, but you're also able to receive it. You aren't always going to be, it's not when your partner is struggling, you can help them, but when you're struggling, you don't. It's not that when your partner is struggling, you need to help them, and when you're struggling, you need to be alone, or you need to be completely dependent on your partner. It's a balance of giving that energy and being like, I'm here for you, and then also allowing them to be there for you. And then when you're secure, you're able to be more comfortable when you aren't in a relationship, or when you are not having a lot of friendships. You're able to be comfortable alone, but you also are able to be comfortable with others. You are able to communicate with others. You are able to have friendships with others. You're able to have these deep connections with others because you understand how you work. And then last of all, you just will feel more confident, and you feel like you have a place in this world because you are able to set yourself up for success. And you may be wondering, what's my attachment style? So I have a QR code for a quiz that you can take. And it's not, I don't get any of this information. This is where I got most of my knowledge about attachment styles. It goes to the attachmentproject.org. It will give you, it's a quick little quiz. And if you give your email at the end, you can get really in depth, and you will know like your attachment style with like your parents, your attachment style with your relationship, your romantic relationship, your attachment style in work, your attachment style like generally, like when it says generally, it means like more friendships or just people that you know. But in conclusion, you are not stuck in your insecure attachment style. You can reprogram how you react. You can understand yourself better. You can be healthy. You can be secure as long as you communicate, as long as you understand yourself. If you know your triggers, you can react to them healthfully. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hunter. Let's give it up one more time for her. Can I have the speakers from today come back up on the stage? Let's give it up for them one more time. Thank you so much for the passion you put into these speeches, and thank you for being here today. Have a great day.
Savannah. What? This is for you.
Oh.
Yes.